Hey guys, welcome back to the Calibrate Tools and DIY channel. Did you know this about measuring tapes? Stick around and find out. See you right after this. Alright guys, measuring tapes, we all love them and we all need them. Without a measuring tape, nothing is going to be built. But do we really know how to use these things? For example, the tape ends in this hook right here, and we definitely need this hook to attach to outside surfaces when we're measuring. But why is it wiggly like this? Why is it loose, or why does it have play? Well, believe it or not, this is one of the most important parts of the measuring tape, because without that play, you could not measure accurately. The play in this hook right here, that actually gives you a precise measurement, and it's what's called the true zero feature. Now, this is how the feature works. When you're measuring from an outside surface, you're going to use your hook to attach to that outside surface. Now, this hook itself is about 1/16 of an inch. When it's attached to the surface, obviously it's not part of the measurement of that surface anymore, because you're going to be measuring from the edge of this surface on out. And this is where that looseness and that play comes in. When you attach your hook to the surface, you're measuring from the edge of this surface right here. Obviously, the hook is not part of that measurement. So you need to compensate for the thickness of this hook, which is about 1/16 of an inch. And that's where the play comes in. See that play? Now, when it's fully extended, that's going to produce a gap right here. That's about 1/16 of an inch. Let me do that again. That gap is created, which equals the thickness of this hook right here. And that's going to give you your true zero. So that gap is just the same as any other increment on the measuring tape. Matter of fact, it would be the very first increment when you're measuring outside surfaces using the hook. So you would count that gap as 1/16, 2/16, 3/16, and so on. And that's what gives you an accurate measurement. If I push the tape back in, contacting the hook, I would lose a 1/16 and I would be off a 1/16 in my measurements. That's why that play is so important. Now, when you're measuring an inside surface, that's when you can push it in, because now the hook or the metal edge becomes the first 1/16 of the measuring tape. All right, so what about all these holes on the end of the hook? You have it on this tape, even on this hook, on this tape, you see that hole pretty much on every measuring tape hook. Well, that's just to make it a lot easier to measure when you don't have anybody else around to hold the tape. Say you're going to measure from the outside edge. Just take a nail. Then you just take your measuring tape and you hook it onto one of the nails using one of the holes on your tape. Makes it a lot easier if nobody else is around to hold the measuring tape for you. Not only that, a nail is probably better because it doesn't move, it doesn't shake like a person would. All right, so what if you want to find those studs in your wall without a stud finder, or you may not have a stud finder? Well, a measuring tape can help you with that. Most studs are 16 inches on center, some are 24 inches, and your measuring tape will help you find that pretty easily. All you gotta do is push your tape up against the edge of the wall or the inside corner, and you see these red boxes right here? It says 16 on center. That should tell you where the first stud is. And then you got another red box here that says 32. That's another 16 inches away. Another red box, that's the next stud. Now, what about these diamonds right here? You got one on the top, one on the bottom, and they're every 19 and 3/16 inches, like you see here. And they're meant to mark trusses and joists on center. Now, most DIYers are not dealing with trusses and joists, but if for some odd reason you need to divide 8 feet into 5 equal parts, this is the distance to do that. All right, so when it comes to measuring inside corners, you don't want to do this. You don't want to bend your tape like that. There's a better way. Use the tape case instead. On the side of the casing, they usually have the exact length of the case itself. So if you look right here, you'll see 3.25 inches, 3¼ inches, and that's the length of the tape casing. On this one, it's right here. It says 2 7/8 inches. That way you can push your tape all the way to the edge of the inside corner and push the casing all the way to the edge of this inside corner, lock it in, Get your measurement and just add the length of the casing to your measurement and you should be okay. That way you won't end up possibly damaging your tape, bending it in those inside corners. All right, so let's just say you want to do some simple addition and subtraction. Well, you can do that with your measuring tape. Let's pick a random number like 39. Let's just say I want to subtract 11 from 39. Well, I just take the end of my measuring tape, this part right here, and I match it up with 39 right here. Then I go all the way over to 11, and I look above that, and I see 28. 39 minus 11 is 28, and that's without a calculator. But what if I want to add 11 to 39? What would I get? Well, all you got to do is this. You want to bring 11 all the way to 39, right here. And then you go to the end of the tape, and what do you get? 50. So that's how you can add and subtract using a measuring tape. So who needs a compass? You can make circles and arcs with the measuring tape as well. Just take a nail, tap it into your surface, take your measuring tape, and put it up against the nail like that. You just take your pencil and you put it behind the hook like this, and you just trace. Kind of went off course there. Got a course correct. And you can extend or retract the tape. Let's extend it a little further. Now you have a wider circle. Let's go in about 2 inches. Not perfect because I didn't stay as steady as I could have, but you guys get the idea. You can make perfect circles with a measuring tape. All right, so you can find the center of anything with the measuring tape. Let's take this board right here. It's about 5.5 inches wide. So what we want to do is we want to slant the tape to the nearest whole number, which is 6. You want to make sure that you match this mark with the edge of your material. So this lands right on 6. Then we want to divide that in half, and so we get 3, and that's where we want to make our mark. Then if we measure, we get 2 3/4, which is half of 5.5. So we're right on center. Hey, that's some pretty good stuff about these measuring tapes that you probably didn't know, right? If you learned something, hit that like and subscribe button. And you can find this measuring tape, the Calibrate measuring tape, down below. It's a 16-footer, stainless steel, double-sided, numbers on both sides. Guys, just go down below, grab yours, and I'll see you in the next one.